It's Kaylin, and I am doing a quick review on Dolores Claiborne by Stephen King. This is a book that I just finished, and it's not one of King's more popular books, but I think it deserves a bit more attention, actually a lot more attention. I really, really enjoyed this book. It was so good. It's a psychological thriller. It's more mental than like physical horror. It has a little bit of gore, but really not as much as kind of some of his other books. So I was really drawn to it because of that. And I had seen the movie several years back, but I didn't remember a lot of it. So I thought this is probably a good time to pick this book up because it won't be too spoilery because I don't remember a lot of what happened. So anyway, I picked this up when I was actually on my trip to Maine, and I had started reading it, but then I flew back from Maine and I kind of got caught up in other books, but then picked it back up and breezed right through it. And that's saying something because I take normally kind of a long time to read books, and it didn't take me much to get through this. Like I said, this is more of a psychological thriller. It focuses on a woman named Dolores Claiborne, and she is in her 60s, and to start off with, she is being questioned by police concerning the death of a woman that she works for. She works for this wealthy woman as a caretaker, kind of a housekeeper for her, and she's been working with her for years and years. But this woman just died under some mysterious circumstances, and the town is suspicious of her because it turns out her husband had died years ago under mysterious circumstances, and everyone in town basically believes that Dolores was responsible for it. So basically, this is her from beginning to end, just telling her story as she's sitting with these two police officers or detectives or whoever they are. And she tells her story basically from the beginning. She starts out briefly in her childhood, but it's basically from 30 years leading up to this, from the time she was married to her husband and had 3 children. It tells about her meeting her husband and then the abuse that she suffers from him. He's very abusive, both emotionally, mentally, and physically, and she has to deal with that as well as raising 3 kids. And basically things just build and build and build, and all of her whole story is basically telling who she is, why she does some of the things that she does, and the choices that she makes and the reasoning behind them. I don't want to give too much away, but basically from the beginning you have a suspicion that something bad is going to happen between her and her husband. And he's just an awful, awful, awful person. And we are basically getting behind Dolores and the rest of her family and just cheering her on the whole way. This book was a real page turner, which was just what I needed. It's very fantastically well written. I don't think there's a word out of place in this book. And she's a funny character. She's very kind of sassy and independent and kind of doesn't take crap from anyone, I guess, besides the husband in the beginning. But it just shows her evolve so much throughout the book. And just is an examination of what one person will do for the love of their kids. And this story, from beginning to end, it has no page breaks, it has no chapter breaks. You're basically along for the ride with no stops. And at first I thought, oh, that's going to be kind of hard. How will I, take a break and everything? And will there not be any good places to stop? And but I read so much of it that I didn't really care, and I kind of feel like it felt fitting for this story because she's really sitting for hours and hours and telling this whole story. So anyway, I think this is a very underrated book. It's not talked about. I've never really heard it ever talked about on BookTube, and I think it deserves more attention. And so this is Dolores Claiborne, and the movie is very good. I had seen the movie, years and years ago, so I had remembered some things, but not everything. So it didn't ruin it for me or anything. Definitely this ranks with me as my top 2 or 3 Stephen King books. Misery was my favorite. This is very closely rivaling that. So if you haven't read Dolores Claiborne by Stephen King, I highly recommend it. If you have read it and you want to post in the comments, let me know. Or if you're interested in reading it, let me know. Again, I highly recommend this. It was just what I needed. It was suspenseful. It was funny. It was heartbreaking. Oh my gosh, I cried like 3 or 4 different times reading this book, which was very surprising to me. So I can't really sing its praises enough. It wasn't a perfect book. It really wasn't. There were a few things in the ending that I thought were tied up a little bit neatly, perhaps a little bit too neatly, but this was such a powerful character and likable character. Very, very imperfect character, but you still cheer her on the whole way through. I just loved it, and I loved the setting. It takes place on an island called Little Tall Island, which is actually based, I think, on a real island off the coast of Maine called Mount Desert Isle. These places that King writes about are usually places that are based off of actual towns or cities in Maine. So, and that's where he's from. So, Dolores Claiborne, I highly recommend it. Read it. If you have any comments or anything, leave them below, and I will talk to you again soon with a new video. I will probably be doing a September TBR and an August wrap-up. So hope you enjoyed this. I would love to read more and more King. I'm thinking of reading Gerald's Game. If you have a favorite Stephen King book you'd like to recommend, let me know below, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!